You're listening to the Black Eagles podcast with Sinan and Kaan Bayazit.
Ahmet Dursun Sergen aldı. Sergen Bülent yan yana. Sergen Bülent. Sergen. Orada Tümer var. Tümer'e doğru atıyor. Kaybetti. Tümer topu aldı. Sergen aldı. Gol! Gol! Gol! Sergen attı. Sergen attı. Şampiyonluk geldi. Sergen attı. Şampiyonluk geldi.
İbrahim'in pası. Roma. Şimdi Ahmet. İkinci gole gidiyor Beşiktaş. Ahmet.
Ready to go?
Yep.
All right. Welcome back, everybody. Episode 61 of Beşiktaş International's The Black Eagles podcast. I am your host, Sinan, live from New York City, as always. And today, your favorite co-host and mine, it's Kaan Bayazit, coming in from Belgium. How you doing, sir?
Hey everyone! Thank you very much for that warm welcome, Sinan.
Yeah. I'm doing everything I can to bring some energy to this one. Trying.
Well, yeah, indeed. Just a quick plug for those of you who are faithful listeners to our show. There's a new football podcast, Football a la Turca, which I would very much appreciate if you check out. It's also on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, etc. Go check it out. It's a new podcast. Sinan will hopefully be involved as well. He already is, of course. He already is involved, of course. But you might be hearing Sinan's voice on there. You'll be hearing my voice for sure. And then two friends of mine, Burak Sizgin, Fenerbahçe fan, and Özer Dinger, a Galatasaray fan. So you might know those two guys from Twitter, perhaps as well. I think two great co-hosts I found. I'm gonna put that feather in my cap. But definitely go in and check it out. And thanks for listening to this, of course, our flagship podcast.
The original, the OG. Well, and so let's cut right to it, because it's hard not to talk about today with spoilers left out, because, you know, it was an emotional day. So as you all know, we're coming off a huge derby match. Beşiktaş hosted Fenerbahçe at Vodafone Park. It was a big match. Beşiktaş came into it with a lot of energy, a lot of momentum, after a few good results. Of course, this would be vital for them to build on. Fener also had a lot riding on this match with themselves nearing relegation, and you know every point matters for them at this point. So at this stage of the season, I should say.
Yeah, definitely.
So I'll cut into the starting lineups, and today I won't be lazy. I'll tell both sides of the story, because you guys might want to know who Fener played as well. So Beşiktaş brought out Loris Karius, Gökhan Gönül and Adriano on the flanks, with Vida and İsmet Mirin in the middle of the defense. Dorukhan Tokuz and Atiba were in the center of the midfield, with Shinji Kagawa starting in the number 10 slot. Jermaine Lens and Guven Yalçın, Guven was on the left side, started on the wings, with Burak up front. For Fener, they brought out Volkan Demirel, you all know that name, with Sadiq.
Are you going to insert booze?
Yeah, should I? That's a good idea. I will. Consider it done. You guys will already have heard them, and the rest of this conversation won't make much sense in post. But Volkan Demirel indeed did start in the back, in their goal, with Martin Skirtel and Sadiq Çiftpınar starting on the back line for them, with Hasan Ali Kaldırım and Mauricio Isla starting on their flanks, with Tolgay Arslan and Mehmet Topal starting in the center of their midfield, with Miha Zaic starting in their number 10 slot. Victor Moses and Nabil Dirar started on the wings, and Roberto Soldado started up front for them. And so that is what set the stage for quite a day. Quite a day's events. Also, you'll note the stadium sounds incoming. Those are, of course, thanks to Emre Hasturk, who was in the stadium today for the match. Thank you again, Emre, for all those glorious stadium sounds. So right off the get-go, the game starts out with a lot of energy back and forth, and Gökhan Gönül strikes in the 10th minute. Kaan, do you have any notes on that first goal besides the fact that it was fairly sublime? No assist, so that it wasn't credited to anyone with an assist.
I think Vida got the previous touch, but
He should have, yeah. It was a lovely touch by Vida. So it came in on a corner,
free kick from Kagawa.
free kick, and it dropped into Vida on the left side of the goal, and he kind of, it should have been an assist.
Yeah.
I'm not sure why it's not listed, but he sort of plopped it, a nice looping little cross into Gökhan Gönül, who slotted it home perfectly to the bottom right corner of the goal. Any comments?
Yeah, well, I just want to say, Gökhan Gönül, hats off to you, my friend. Not celebrating the goal, and for me, I don't know how other British fans felt about that, but I was asked this on the other podcast as well by my co-host, and for me, ultimate show of respect and being a gentleman in football, and as a Beşiktaş fan, I can only respect that. I respect him more now than I did before, which my respect for him was already pretty great. But I mean, I don't know how you felt about it. Would you have liked to see Gökhan celebrate like a madman and
Not at all.
be all like, yeah?
Not at all.
I mean, for me, I think this fits him. This suits him. This suits the club. Really liked his celebration or lack thereof. Really.
Here at the Black Eagles podcast, I think we're the thinking man's Beşiktaş podcast, Kaan. You know, and really. You have to be like literally just week we were giving a shout out, giving big credit to Ömer Şişmanoğlu for his classy display against us, and I think we have to project that across the board.
Exactly.
Big shout out to Gökhan Gönül. I like that. And at the end of the day, what do we want these games to go on without people throwing things in the stands and getting too heated and emotionally charged. And so it's these kinds of gestures, which I think go a long way. I would say. Yeah,
maybe it can kind of mend the broken relationship that has kind of occurred between the two clubs in recent years.
I hope for that. Anyway, but so continuing on, it didn't take very long for Beşiktaş to strike again, and it was in the 18th minute that Gökhan again. Yes, right. It was Gökhan Gönül who was kicked quite heartily by
Hasan Ali Kaldırım, but they were both going for the ball. Hasan Ali tried to clear the ball, but was too late, and then kicked Gökhan in the calf. And there was a VAR check for this one because initially it wasn't given.
A little time passed before they went to the VAR check. Mm-hmm. They let play go on, and then it was in the immediately following sort of stop and play, where the crowd had become so boisterous. Whatever it was, enough doubt was put into the mind of the referee Bülent. Was it Bülent Yildirim?
I think he was in talks with the VAR room already, but it takes a little time. They have to look at it from 4 different angles, and they need a little bit of time. So he waited until the ball was out of play, and then he went to check. But for me, clear penalty. It wasn't really it wasn't like a nasty foul or anything. It wasn't a Barış goal chance. It wasn't like a huge goal scoring opportunity, but it's a foul in the box. It's a penalty.
And a very clear foul. You can't. It's probably, I think, if you're a Fener fan, you feel what a terrible way to concede a penalty, but fair is fair.
Yeah, of course, yeah. As a fan, the feeling that you have when penalties are blown against you or whatever, the feeling is like, well, that doesn't feel justified because it's not really, there's not really much going on, but it's a foul. It's a penalty.
It's a
careless.
if it's
a foul anywhere else.
It's a fairly stupid, careless play. that results in a penalty. And so, anyway, 18th minute, Burak Yilmaz steps up to the spot, puts it away.
Beşiktaş'ımızın ikinci golü. 71 numaralı formasıyla.
Burak! Burak! Burak! Beyaz!
Şampiyon!
Beşiktaş!
Very nicely to the left side, firm, confident, direct.
Sends the goalkeeper the wrong way.
Sends him the wrong way. He does a little stutter step before he steps up to take the shot. Beautifully taken. Burak Yilmaz makes it 2-0. And then, in the 35th minute, Miha Zajc picks up a yellow card. He had been playing sort of irrationally for much of the first half.
The first 25 to 30 minutes, he wasn't really good, but I think he grew in the match.
And we'll talk about
some
it,
good set pieces.
He certainly did make a mark. But anyway, about 10 minutes passes, and Burak Yilmaz strikes again. Shinji Kagawa sets him up on a little run that looks innocent enough, but he turns it into a goal, driving it forward and then sliding it home, kind of chipping the keeper. Stunning goal. At this point, the stadium is just exploding. The crowd is into it. The music is going. Everyone, we've won the match, right? Like everything is set in stone. The half is right upon us, right? This is 2 minutes into stoppage time in the first half. Things are looking great. And I want to make a little note here, Kaan, because it doesn't dispute your main point that we deserved the end result. But at this point, and maybe 4 minutes into extra time, Miha Zajc tackles, I want to say, Adriano in our box. So like they're attacking, and it was for me a clear yellow card, which would have been a second and gets him sent off. It's not called at this point. No one's making too much of a stink because we're winning 3-0. The stadium is still celebrating. It's still
in a ruse.
Yeah,
almost.
like kind of like they've lost it at this point. So people don't even really care. I made a note of this, though, because I thought, geez, that was a terrible tackle, and he should be out of this match.
Yeah, you're right. That's a second yellow bookable offense for sure.
But it's not called. Play resumes. The half is called. Beşiktaş is winning 3-0. Kaan, do you have any first half notes without spoiling what comes ahead?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I said the exact same thing on Twitter at halftime. It's a 3-0 lead for Beşiktaş that were never really impressive. I didn't think Beşiktaş were impressive. Yes, there was good pressing, but at no point did I feel like they had to dig deep in that whole first half. It was just Fenerbahçe, right a little bit after the 2-0, there was some pressure from Fenerbahçe, but they were really toothless in attack, and it was all Beşiktaş that was kind of inviting the pressure and looking for that counter. That's even what I said at halftime in the group as well, where I think that was kind of what we were looking for. We were inviting the pressure and then hit them on the break, which we did perfectly with that third goal. But I think that, perhaps, and this would later maybe become part of the issue, I think the fact that this was never really an intense derby-like match for us, because it was all way too easy, and I think we grew complacent.
Sure. And I think if you're looking at this from Fener's side, that first half was like Murphy's Law. Anything that can go wrong will go wrong. You know, I mean, all 3 goals happened in these moments where, I mean, just everything clicked. Everything went Beşiktaş's way. And
did we have other chances? I mean,
not many, not really, and that's why I say that. You know, it was really a scenario where just like everything that could, like, I feel like at least 2 of those 3 positions, like, you know, the foul on Gökhan Gönül is the type of thing that typically wouldn't even be noticed.
Oh,
I
no,
feel
yeah.
like I was shocked that
pre-VAR, you don't get that.
No way. Yeah, and even post-VAR, you know, that's one of those ones where you're like, why didn't they even look at it? You know,
happened before.
It's, you know, everything just clicked for Beşiktaş in that first half, and you're right. It's not like Beşiktaş. I mean, they kind of dominated, but not in a traditional way. It's not like they were all over, you know, in constant attack. It was more like Fener was lackadaisical. They were sort of sleepwalking through the first half.
I think we were so spoiled by the circumstances that we never really got going. At no point in that first half did I have the feeling that we were pushing into a higher gear, because at no point we really had to. I mean, 10 minutes we were already 1-0 up, and then 5 minutes later we get a penalty. You know, ultimately that took a little bit longer due to the VAR and all that, but really in the time span of 18 minutes, you're 2-0 up. You already almost kind of won the game, as long as you know, defend properly. And then they kind of grow back into the match in that first half, but you hit them right at the perfect time, at the stroke of halftime almost. You kill the game, right?
Yeah,
3-0 at home.
The third one was really I think in a way that's what deflates Beşiktaş too. But we've already started to do what we're not supposed to by spoiling. So the second half begins, and Fener makes 2 moves immediately. They take out Isla and bring in Valbuena, which is kind of an interesting move. It definitely signals intent. And they also take out Victor Moses, who, to be fair, I thought was the biggest nuisance in the first half. I thought it was a silly move, I'll be honest. They bring in Andre Ayew, and then, well, I was wrong, I guess, but I'll tell you why. Fener starts to press immediately. The impact was immediately felt. They were hungry. Something in the halftime talk had clicked, and clearly Beşiktaş has hit the brakes, is sort of happy to sit back and defend a little bit. Although it doesn't look like Fener's really going to do much with it. They're still clumsy coming out the gate. But then, in the 55th minute, a bunch of chaos ensues in front of the goal. Somehow, Nabil Dirar finds Miha Zajc, who should not be in the game because he would have been out had he gotten that second yellow card. But anyway, he puts it away. 55th minute, Fenerbahçe score. Beşiktaş is winning 3-1. Any comments on that goal, Kaan? Like, who do you blame that one for? Who do you blame that one on?
I think it was just a lack of sharpness from the entire team there. I think it was all way too easy. They just let Fenerbahçe go about their business. There wasn't really that put my head in front of any ball mentality, which I think in these types of situations you still have to do, at least until a certain point. I think if you can postpone that goal long enough, that first goal, it came at the perfect time, 55 minutes, 10 minutes in. Like, obviously it can come a little bit earlier, but that's like still within the margin of being the perfect type of time.
Yeah, and I think 2 subs have to settle, you know, it's really...
Yeah, I mean, for us, it was just too out of the gate from the second half, too lackluster. The team was flat, the crowd was flat.
Yeah.
It's
like they got drunk and then like the hangover started setting in, you know, a little early.
I was extremely disappointed with the crowd. I think they failed the team as much as the team failed them, and that's a huge failure.
Yeah. Even 3-0 up coming into the second half, you could already start to hear Fener's section more than ours, which was troubling.
Extreme pressure on that pitch. They need to push us forward. It is their job. I mean, if the team is a little bit complacent coming out of the gate with that 3-0 lead, which is understandable. It shouldn't happen, but it's understandable. The crowd need to get behind them and kick them a kick in their arse.
For sure.
That's not what happened.
Yeah, we needed some whistles. We needed some action there. But so anyway, 5 minutes later, a little bit of a scuffle ensues on the sideline. The ball goes out. Ozan catches it and very innocently, I'm going to say this objectively, just puts it right down without any obstruction. But Nabil Dirar, in a furor, storms over, shoves Ozan. I thought Nabil Dirar was just way too emotional at that stage. Of course, they're down by 2 goals and trying to come back, and he perceived something that I didn't see at all. But Necip steps up to sort of stand up for his man, and Ozan. Heads are pressed together. Yellow cards are dished out. Nabil Dirar gets 1. Necip Uysal gets 1. So Necip is, by the way, suspended for our next match. Although, that's not. If anyone listens to this podcast, they know we're not gonna play the tragedy song for that one.
No.
Any comments on the scuffle?
Well, you know what? I don't want to come up with any excuses. I think it's a little bit. On a different day, I think this could have been a red card for Dirar. I think what he does is not necessary. I think if there's a VAR check there, he does push. For me, that's a red card.
And he's the aggressor, 100%.
Yeah, he is. For me, it's a red card, but.
Same. But whatever, it's a big game, it's a big moment.
Look, I mean, I completely understand the referee for keeping it at a yellow for both there. That's understandable. I think it's you know what? I'll put it this way. I don't really think it's we have been on the receiving end of those types of red cards, I think, in the past, in derbies and such, in crucial games. So obviously, it's easy to have the feeling of, well, why isn't that the same here? I think in the spirit of the game, the referee was right to do what he did.
And speaking of cards that were not dished out that we see a lot, and I'm jumping the gun a little, but late in the game, Volkan is sitting around on the ball, and we were talking about how Karius gets cards so fast. Anyway, whatever. I don't want to. We're veering into spoiler mode here. So in the 61st minute, 1 minute after the scuffle, so make of that what you will. Another crazy scuffle in front of the box, total chaos, and somehow a ball from Mateo Valbuena finds Sadiq Çiftpınar. He slams it into the back of the net.
Wasn't it a header? I think it was a header.
I mean, he could have slammed it nonetheless with his head, But yes, fine. At that point, I think I was averting my eyes because I kind of felt like I knew it was coming.
It was a header because there was a VAR check because there was like a very mild. I don't even want to call it a push on Dorukhan, where Sadiq goes up high. He's kind of in the back of Dorukhan, but for me, it's not a foul.
Oh yeah,
the right decision.
That's right. Yeah, and they were looking into whether he sort of projected himself off of the back.
Yeah, Cüneyt Çakır, who was in the VAR room, called Bülent Yıldırım over. I mean, they were communicating, and usually then there's like. Well, usually when the VAR ref calls the referee in, it's kind of a situation where the VAR ref has seen something.
Yeah. I'll tell you what,
but for me,
that's actually I agree that I'm not upset by the end result, by the call, but it is a lot more of a 50-50 than I think you're giving it credit for, because he does, at the end of the day, he obstructs Dorukhan, and Dorukhan's job is to defend, right? It's to defend that ball, and he can't move upwards towards the ball because he's got that hand on his back. So it could be called. Again, I'm not furious about the no call there.
I don't even know if there was a hand. I think it was just kind of like leaning up against it. For me, it's not a foul.
There was a hand. I'll say that. But yeah, I can see how it's not called. It's a huge thing to take that goal away.
Yeah,
if it's called, it has to be called immediately, and then maybe in the VAR they have to sustain it because there's not enough evidence to take it away. But on the flip side, I feel like there's not enough evidence to give that call. Anyway, 64th minute, the first sub is made by Beşiktaş, which I don't know, maybe that's a little late. Caner Erkin steps into the match for Güven Yalçın, who clearly has run out of steam a little bit at this stage. Whatever. I won't do too much analysis yet. Anyway, without dwelling on things. 3 more minutes pass. An innocent ball from Roberto Soldado back to Hassan Ali Calderim, and Mr. Calderim once again conjures his seasonal tiny little bit of magic. He's a freaking disaster on the football pitch every time I watch him against any other team they play. But every season against Beşiktaş, he has these freaking moments, and he did it again. In the first half of the season, he did it to us too with a magical cross out of nowhere that gave them a point they didn't deserve. And here he was slamming the ball from distance into the back of the net and equalizing the game, and then gesturing hostilely at the crowd to shut up and blah, blah. At this stage, I was so... I don't know how people...
You know what? I have to be... as soon as that second goal went in, I knew it was gonna end in a loss of points for us.
Well, and we haven't gotten there
the momentum.
yet, Kaan.
The momentum of the match had completely shifted, and
let me just before you do this, let me quickly just take us out. So after that, Quaresma comes into the match for Jermaine Lens. 74th minute, Burak Yilmaz gets a yellow card. 76th minute, Sadiq gets a yellow card for them. Elgif Elmas comes in for Miha Zayt, who again should not be in the game. In the 84th minute, in the 85th minute, Mustafa Pekdemek comes into the match for Shinji Kagawa. Still 2019, folks. Still seeing Mustafa Pekdemek. Yep. And then in the 8th minute of extra time, Hassan Ali Calderim gets a yellow card. Right after that, Burak Yilmaz gets a sublime cross from Ricardo Quaresma, naturally. And it slams off the post, does not go in. It hits the inside of the post and bounces across the goal line, but not into the goal. No one's there to tap it in. The game ends 3-3. Fener rescues a point in Beşiktaş's home.
Yeah, and right before that, there was a big chance for Burak one-on-one with Volkan too, which Volkan saved with his fat ass. And there was a big chance, I think, at the end as well for Fenerbahçe, so they could have snuck a win. Yeah, I mean, as soon as they equalize 3-3, there's still plenty of time in the match, but you just know it's not gonna happen.
It's true. It's true.
It's as soon as the second goal went in, I was already mentally preparing for a disaster, but there's that little bit in your head that you know it's gonna end, and they're gonna make us a third one, but still you're like, it can be true, no, but you just know it's gonna happen. And then when they score that third goal, then you keep watching. There's still with added time on, there's still half an hour on the clock because we got 7 minutes of stoppage time, and you want to suspend your disbelief that the ball just has to drop once, but you just know that the momentum is completely shot. It's over. You can play these 30 minutes still, but if anyone's going to score, it's them. And I'll have to hand it to you. I was really surprised we still got that really big opportunity with the header. Well, yeah, the first one I wasn't that surprised by because of course Volkan's gonna save that. But the second one was really there was no way of stopping. If that would have been 4 or 5 inches more to the right, that's a goal that you can't stop. And it's unfortunate that it doesn't go in. Because for us, I think this is kind of like fin de la saison. I think this is over for us. I mean, title race is over. We're 11 points back now.
Kaan, tell us. All right, this time we're going to switch it up. Tell us about the table since the whole weekend is over. Since we're playing a Monday match here, and then I'll do the stat flash. So let me give you the mic for a moment. Tell us what the table looks like now.
Okay, so top 4, Başakşehir are on top of the table with 51 points. Galatasaray are in second place with 45, and then we're in third with 40, and then Trabzonspor are in fourth with 36. So we're 4 points in front of Trabzonspor. We're 5 points behind of Galatasaray. And you know what? After this result, which I kind of fear it's going to have a completely deflating effect on the momentum of the team. I wouldn't be surprised if Trabzonspor catch us, because we still have to go to Trabzon in the final couple of weeks. And you know the thing with Trabzonspor a little bit then, they're very up and down. So if we can come back from this and you know, continue just to win a decent amount of matches, we'll be fine. But I don't know. We'll have to wait and see what type of mental impact this is going to have on the team. But yeah, in the standings, it's kind of over for us. 11 points back, only 11 matches left in the season. Başakşehir have shown very little sign of slowing down. And yeah, they might start dropping some points here and there because they have some tough games ahead of them. But yeah, 11 points.
Yeah.
It's not happening. If we would have won, we would have been 9 points back, and it would have been very difficult. But then we have the match at home against Başakşehir. They still have to play Fenerbahçe in 2 weeks. They still have to play away at Galatasaray. They still have to play. No, they already played Trabzonspor, but they still have to play a very informed Rizespor. They still have to play Konyaspor. They have plenty of difficult matches. And as soon as they lose one, if that loss comes relatively early, you're only 6 points back. And then if you can beat them, you're only 3 points back if you keep winning. But obviously that's not the case. And for us, I mean, the best possible finish for us, I think, is second place, which would give us rights to the Champions League qualifiers. But you know, honestly, I mean, even at this stage, I think that's going to be a massive stretch, because we still have to go to Galatasaray. And I mean, yeah, if you can't beat this Fenerbahçe.
And so I'll segue us back into today's match by talking about stats. Before I do that, just to piggyback on what you were just saying, we do have our next few matches, and I'll go into details at the end of the episode to talk about you know, when to tune in and all that as usual. But we're going to be away to Kayserispor this coming weekend. After that, we're going to be hosting Konyaspor, and then again we're going to be hosting Göztepe. So we're hosting 2 weeks in a row. Göztepe is sliding down the table. So I mean, in theory, these are 3 weeks for us to potentially regain some steam. Oh, and then after that we have Rize on the road, which is tough actually. But you know, we have a little chance to regain some momentum here, if we can. But that's a big if. And like you said, if this is deflating in a way that it is for our fan base, clearly, for us, then you know, it's going to be a tough recovery.
I think the Kayserispor away match is going to be tough, because Kayserispor are still unbeaten in 2019. They won their last 3 matches straight, so they're definitely not going to be a pushover. Obviously, they have a little bit of a cushion now. They were kind of in the relegation battle as well. They maybe they will be a little bit less motivated. I don't know, but it's a big game for them. Opportunity for some of their players to show themselves. I think it's going to be tough. And you know what? If we would have won this match today, 3-4, 5-0, whatever, I think we could have gone on there with some good momentum, with Laic back, with Kagawa, who had an amazing first half. You know, I mean, if you win this match today, that could be enough to jumpstart you for a very nice run. But yeah, we don't win. I mean, it's that first half. I mean, like I said, I really didn't think we were all that impressive, but there was so many positives to take away from that first half, because Shinji Kagawa was so great. And then I think you can see that we do have kind of that gap on the left, but Adem Laic, you can perfectly see him slotting into that role. And then you have a really interesting front line with Burak, who's on form, with Laic, with Kagawa, with Lens/Quaresma,
and Durakan sliding forward.
Yeah.
Also, all right, let me segue back into today's match. Let me talk about today's stats, and then we'll get into analysis. So, Fenerbahçe had 16 shots to Beşiktaş's 9. Beşiktaş had 5 on target to their 4, so they were very inefficient. A lot of this was probably the result of sort of desperation, being 3 goals behind. Possession went 61% to 39 in Fenerbahçe's favor. Again, a lot of this you'd expect, because they were behind for much of the match, and severely behind. Passes, 482 completed to our 317. 76% accuracy to Beşiktaş's 65. So this was possibly a season low in terms of passing accuracy for Beşiktaş. We'll talk about that after, maybe. I don't know what that spells out for the team. Fouls, 22 committed to Fenerbahçe's 19, but Fener got 4 yellow cards to Beşiktaş's 2. And remember, one of those yellow cards was someone who was not even in play, in the way of Najib. No red cards on either side. Fener was only called for one offside, and Beşiktaş none. And so that weird, Burak staying on sides is still a thing somehow. And corners went to Fener's favor 5-3. So all of this spells out what you'd expect for the most part. A team that was behind for much of the match, fighting its way back in for much of the match, and holding the ball and pressing and taking shots from distance. Maybe not the best shots, but desperation will do that. And of course the result worked in their favor in the end. So I don't think the stats say much. The one thing I'd like to maybe take note of is the really bad passing efficiency on the part of Beşiktaş. There's no reason for Beşiktaş to be passing poorly, even with those circumstances. Of course, Fener is pressing more and hungry, for much of the match. But still, you'd expect better.
It's weird to see, though, how our midfield in the second half completely dissipated.
Yeah.
I mean, if you compare it to the first half, and the weird thing about it is that Fenerbahçe didn't make any tactical changes. I mean, they did on the wings, but they didn't make any tactical changes in the middle until late in the second half when they brought on Elif Elmas for Ziyech. But that's the main takeaway for me there. I mean, our midfield, that Dorukhan Atiba pairing that has been so good for us in recent weeks, that really kind of hit a wall there. Maybe it also had to do with the fact that Kagawa maybe might have lost a little bit of fitness. I mean, I thought he was amazing in the first half, and we barely saw him in the second half.
Yeah.
But that's understandable. I mean, that's also why that he's not fit to play 90 minutes.
Yeah, this is his first start in months, in fact, isn't it?
Yeah. Unfortunately for us, we didn't have Laic, but I think if we had Laic, then Kagawa wouldn't have started. So that's a different story. But you know what? There's a lot of stuff like the Kagawa performance. I think that's something really. That's really good. I think I'm kind of really looking forward to seeing him and Laic play at the same time and all that. But at the same time,
feels
looking
like
forward
too late, right?
Yeah, and what are you looking forward to? What are we still really playing for? It's kind of a shame. I hope we can keep him for next season, because I think him and Laic are something we can build on. I still think there's plenty in this team now with the changes that have been made in recent months. There's plenty of a skeleton of a team that we can build on with Karius, with Mirin, with Vida, and then obviously with Dorukhan in midfield. I think we need an Atiba replacement, despite the fact that I think he deserves an extension, but we definitely need a replacement there.
Well, so Kaan, let's talk about this now. Let's change things up. Let's start with the low light, because you were just talking about Mirin, and our group chat was on fire, as always, as it tends to be, no matter what happens, but in particular, that people seem to be very critical of our old friend Isi Miran. Now, I'm appreciative of the fact that you first picked on the midfield's collapse, because I do think that often when things collapse as clearly as they did today, You can't just pick on a keeper or a defense or whatever. It's always going to be more structural and typically from the center of the midfield. And I think you were very right to identify that as the bigger issue, probably. But so now, what about that back line? This clearly wasn't their finest hour.
I find it really difficult to pick a low point, not because there's a lack of choices, but I think my main low point is the collapse of the team effort, really, in the second half. I think it wasn't just one player. I think it was a kind of across the board.
Is this like a Chanel Ganesh type thing?
Well, I think he shares a big part in the responsibility. I mean, at halftime, you're 3-0 up. There's a reason there's a halftime break, not just to rest, but also to do tactical steering by the coach. And I think as the coach is
at the half.
You know what? Maybe.
Right?
Maybe there should have been a
You're
sub.
reacting to 3-0. You got to solidify the back line. Maybe, Kagawa's had a great half. Maybe you kind of, cash in your chips there.
I don't know. I mean, I think you'd leave Kagawa on because you do want to still have those counter opportunities. But I think that, for example, a Quaresma for Guven substitution would have made sense. Maybe you put on, especially after the 1-3, I think, or the 3-1, whatever, I think you put on someone. But when did this first sub come? It came really late, after it was already 3-3, I think.
7th, I want to say. Here, I'll get this.
Yeah, I mean...
Yeah, the 64th minute, after the second goal.
After the second goal, I mean, you already need this. There's clearly an issue there on the right. Dirar kept coming over our wing there. There's an issue there. I don't know how you fix it, because I don't think you fix it with putting Adriano off and putting Janner on. But maybe that was his thinking of, I'm gonna put Janner on, so I have two, backs really in that position. But I think he should have maybe put Medell on to have somebody, ankle biting them a little bit more, get him stuck in there a little bit, maybe for Kagawa. I don't know exactly. I mean, I'm not getting paid for this as he is. I mean, but for me, it's definitely a coaching failure. You cannot not blame the coach when the team that just took a 3-0 lead in the first half comes out as flat as they did. But it's not just the coach, it's the team. The team has a responsibility. The players have that responsibility. You need guys to step up in those times. Nobody really did. And then, of course, there's the fans. The fans completely went flat.
Yeah, you stole my thunder. I was going to call out the fans today, because...
Yeah.
All right, you know what? I'm going to dig in deep then. Since you've called out all those elements, I'm going to try to find an individual to pick on here. Well,
maybe Vida.
I was about to say, because Vida got real sloppy at the end. I mean, even at the very end of the match, I don't know if you remember. I didn't mention this in the timeline recap I did, but he actually tried to clear the ball towards the end a few times. He had some very sloppy, rushed, poor clearances, and one of them he kicked back over his head towards our goal, and then it dropped to Dirar, who flubbed it.
I wouldn't even single him out because of his performance, but I would single him out because we expect, people are already calling for him to get the captaincy.
Yeah, like lifetime captain role type. Yeah,
he's the type. He should be the one standing up and grabbing and look, guys, come on. Exactly. We need to put our heads in front of this ball. You can't let it come into the box and get in front of those crosses. And it's easy to target someone like Miran, who's been with the team
for like 2 weeks
because he hasn't.
Exactly. Yeah, come on.
Yeah, and I really don't think he played a good match. But I don't know. It was, for me, there wasn't really a single individual that popped out. It was an organizational issue.
I agree. Yeah,
I think we just didn't have that buffer on that. I mean, clearly their plan was going over that right wing every time again, or left wing, and there wasn't an answer there. There was no Atiba coming to help out, trying to alleviate the pressure. I don't know. Everything went wrong. And like you said, in the first half, everything went wrong for Fenerbahce. I felt like in the second half for us.
Yeah.
I mean, that Hassan Ali goal going in the way it does. I mean, the lack of sharpness on the first goal. I think it's both Vida and Miran who come sliding in, but just don't get to it before. Miran slides in before Zayich, I think, misses it, and then, I mean,
it's just a scrum. And I mean, both of the first two goals were just, there wasn't a great deal of technical expertise by Fener to get those goals. It was just chaos that they were profiting off of, and to be fair, our guys went for it. They embraced the chaos, and it was painful. I mean, you could really feel right out of the gates in the second half just this kind of impending doom. Honestly, it was tough.
I mean, for me, what Şenol Güneş as a coach needs to do is send his team out there and make it very important for them. Look, guys, don't concede within the first 20 minutes,
exactly,
or even the first 25 minutes. I think if you don't concede before the 70-minute mark, then there's no chance in hell, because they're going to come out of the gate with a lot of energy. Obviously, they make their two substitutions. They're going to go for it. They're going to try and get that early goal. But if you can stop them, if you can not let them get that early goal, then this is a match that ends 4-5-0.
Yeah.
But because you are just so flat and not sharp enough, and just, I don't know, they were too complacent. It was like, well, we have a 3-goal cushion. What could possibly happen? We've already got this in the bag. They were already thinking of their trip to Kayseri.
I think so.
For some good sujuk.
I was gonna say Mante, but yeah, indeed. I mean, all right. Let's turn this thing around, Kaan, because we've I think we're starting to circle back on things we've already said, but let's take things out on a bit of a positive note. Tell me who you think is our highlight of the match today. Who stood out as a positive?
I think Burak Yilmaz is the only one that throughout the match kind of kept his level. I think Kagawa was really good in the first half, but obviously, as we already talked about, in the second half he kind of had a logical fall, a dip in form. We knew he wasn't going to be able to keep that up, but he had a great first half. But Burak, the first half, very involved, working very hard, constantly battling with Sadik, very physical, getting stuck in, getting his trademark goal, really a typical Burak goal. And then even in the second half, when it looked like, like I said, when everyone already knew that we were going to drop points, he was still first getting into a really good goal scoring opportunity. Good save by Volkan, can't really blame that on Burak. And then hitting the bar, headed it well, just not well enough. But he kept going for it until the very end, and could have gotten us the win. But it definitely wasn't. It definitely wasn't because of him that we dropped points today.
When he missed that goal, I was really sad because, as it was lofting in, I remembered in the Burak episode when he first arrived saying that I actually thought he had some ability with his head, and that the Quaresma Burak connection could, I was ready to do an "I told you so" moment, but sadly. That did not pan out, but yeah, I agree. I fully agree. Burak Yilmaz was stellar today. You can't say enough about his performance. I was really rooting for him to get that hat trick, especially at the end, because we often allude to our group chat and these certain individuals, and we have the peanut gallery, who always come in with the negative comments. And so I was really, most of all, I wanted us to win just so I could be like, ha! You guys were talking so much for 30 minutes. I was, of course, I want the win as a Beşiktaş fan, but for a moment, a personal, selfish reason was just to be able to kind of tell them all off, because I don't like.
But would that have been because of the goal or because of the assist from Quaresma?
Oh, all of it's beautiful, right? Because I'm not a fanboy, but I just want Beşiktaş to do well, and you and I are both on the same page as far as his status with the club long term. So I don't, I would love for him to have been the one kind of responsible, especially for it to have been to Burak, who they all love. It would have been this weird moment for them. I would have loved to have just sort of seen the sour faces kind of deal with a good thing, but what in a way they would have hated the most. But anyway, sadly enough, it did not occur. And yeah,
you can already imagine the comments being all "Oh my God, now he's going to start against Kayseri's
Yeah, exactly. And you know what, he probably will anyway. But so yeah, you're right to call out Burak for a positive. I will. I'll give the other one to Kagawa. You're right. The second half, it was more of a flash and a bang. He came out so amazing. He was his touch on the ball was something we've lacked. But even when we had Talisca up there, that was his ability to get the ball in a tough situation and dribble just like the ball's glued to his foot out of it and find space, then to be able to distribute
but not just that, just being able to find that opening really quickly and shifting the play from one side
so
of the pitch to the other.
Yeah, if he needs to hold the ball and get out of trouble, he
something
can.
Talisca never did.
Yeah, and if he needs to release the ball immediately and put someone on goal, he can. He has so many little tricks in his bag that that first half was just a master class, I thought, And so Shinji, just because of that first half, I'm gonna give him my tip of the cap, and that's also my little my Shinji watch.
City, yardım olma City, hemen City, gol, City.
Don't forget #Shinji watch. We needed to say a few words about him because he really was stellar, and he really
I was on the verge of saying Shinji Kagawa deserves a goal tonight, but unfortunately there was that massive implosion of the entire team that
Yeah, and it was one of the. If we had just calmly managed to hold the ball a little bit and kind of quell the storm of that first 20 minutes of the second half, I bet that's exactly we could have had one of those victory laps where maybe Barak gets his hat trick, where Kagawa gets his breaks his duck, all of these things would have
That's the thing. That's the exact thing. What you're saying. Those first 20-25 minutes. I understood why we let them have the ball in the first half after we made it 2-0, so we could prey on the counter and get that third. I get that. Mm-hmm. But in the second half, we should not have done that. We should have kept the team within our ranks, the ball within our ranks as much as possible. And I don't know. For me, it's a tactical failure because clearly he did not send the team out with that. With that in mind.
And it's funny. Last season, I felt that we did this too much. We used to hold the ball in the back, defenders passing it among themselves, trying to kind of take some of the air out of the game. Whereas I think we often kind of overdid that at certain points last season. We could really have used some of that, like calming, like, okay,
there wouldn't have been a better bro. But then, you go back to those substitutions, for example. Why does he not put in Ozan? Why does he not put in Gary Medel? Exactly. He has options and he ends up putting in Mustafa Pekcan.
Particularly Medel, because you need that terrier to be chasing things down. Especially when you're all right. Even though I think Ozan's the move at the half, I think that you make to try to hold the ball more and to play back and kind of calm things down. But then as soon as you go one goal down, then I think you bring on Medel. Maybe, and I feel like a broken record, but I've said this a million times, maybe in that left back slot, because he doesn't bring you a lot in terms of going forward, but when you're up 3-0, that's okay. Mm-hmm. Let's just solidify the back. Plus, maybe you throw Janer in the wing slot so he has the capacity. And then you're kind of playing with five guys back with a quasi fifth, with Janer and that sort of.
Yeah. But you know what? We're spreading so much blame on Channel as well. On the other hand, of course, okay, you know that the only option Janel has is go out all out attack. You know that. But on the other hand, I think as a coach, in Channel's position, I think you kind of expect their spirits to be broken. So I kind of understand a little bit of why there wasn't a substitution and all that. But I think a really good tactical coach, somebody that anticipates what his rival is going to do, would have done something at halftime, or at least 5 minutes in would have reacted to those two substitutions, because it was already obvious to see really early on that Valbuena had an impact, and Dirar going back to that right back position instead of Isla, and then constantly overlapping Valbuena. That was immediately obvious that was hurting us already. So there should have been a reaction then and there, even before that first goal came. If you put Medel in there and put him on man marking Valbuena, for example, that's the type of thing you need to do. That's the type of thing why you get paid $1.5 million a year or whatever Channel makes. He didn't. And for me, this is just another. This is for me the end. This needs to be his breaking point. This needs to be, look, I take full responsibility for this result and I resign. Yeah. That's what this needs to be for me. What's the point? What's the point in going forward now? And of course, the team is to blame completely too. But somebody needs to take the responsibility here, and the only person capable of doing that is Şenol Güneş, and he needs to resign.
Honestly, it needs to be an executive decision. You say, look, there's nothing left to play for this season. What we need to do is give whoever we're going to put in charge of the helm next the rest of this season to sort of figure their crap out, so that they're ready to go with with the running start next year.
That's where our fans come into play. Why are there no Şenol Güneş istifa chants? I mean, I don't want our fan base to turn into Galatasaray, where you're basically booing your new striker after 2-3 games already,
with
and
Ozan
already telling
last
him.
season. They selectively
Yeah.
already do it. So like let's just pick the right targets, not individual players, because you're going to dispirit them and break their confidence and hurt their ability to perform for us, and then ultimately make recoup value. I mean, at the end of the day, it has to be an executive decision where you say there's nothing left to play for, so we have to give the next guy the opportunity to establish himself, so that we can hit the ground running next season. So whoever is in has the experience and the ability to operate an entire transfer window, for example. Like all of that needs to happen ASAP. So the sooner the better.
Yeah, I mean, plus, I mean, for fans, it's just like, what's the point in still watching at this point? I mean, it's so difficult to motivate yourself as a fan to watch this still. I mean, if there's a new coach that can build towards next season, then you have a reason to watch. But at this point with Şenol Güneş, I just feel like it's 11 more games of having to tolerate his stubborn laziness, and then at the end of that, you're left with him leaving and joining the national team. Whereas otherwise you could, already be seeing, okay, what's Guti going to do towards next season? What's Sergen going to do? What's whoever
players are necessary for the next season? So we know positionally, okay, we need a flank who's got more ability going forward. Whatever the hell it is that his system requires, right? So yeah, I'm fully with you on that.
Yeah, and plus that coach can already do an evaluation of the squad, and he doesn't need to do that in the summer during the training camp. So he already starts with a head start. I mean, this is he needs to go. He needs to be gone. Not tomorrow, not the day after. Today, he should have been gone yesterday. He has to leave. It's done.
Exactly.
The candle has been burned at both ends for the past 2 seasons, and he needs to go. The story is done. We all know that he's not going to be here next season. So what's the point?
Exactly.
What's the point of still having
him?
And I'm not putting all the blame of this result on him, but it doesn't matter because
it's just where we are.
It's done.
Exactly. The
story is over.
Yeah, the chapter is over. The next chapter is ready to begin, and we're just like waiting for the writer of this story to step in and get us going, because it's time.
We're wasting time. We are just wasting time. We're not. This is the only thing we're doing. These next 2 to 3 months of the season that's left is just wasting time, unless he leaves and the new guy is being put in place.
Agreed.
And it doesn't have to. Whoever replaces him should not be a temporary coach. By the way, it has to be the permanent fix already.
This season can only be made constructive by bringing in the guy who's going to be gaining experience with the rest of the season. That's the only. Let's not harp on it, because we've been doing this for months. I feel like, But take. What's your wrap it up, Kaan? What's the point you want us to be thinking about going forward into next week's match against Kayserispor? And let me just quickly mention the time of the match, so that everyone's claro as far as when to tune in. This is an interesting. We have an early game on Saturday. We're not even important enough to have the headliner for the day anymore. Beşiktaş is on the road in Kayserispor against Kayserispor on March 2nd. That's a Saturday match, so we're back to Saturday. It's on at 8 a.m. here in New York City, which means that's going to be I think 2
for me
p.m.
and
for
4,
you, and 3 or 4.
And 4 in Turkey.
4 in Turkey. Maybe 3 with daylight savings. Check your local listings. But so yeah, again, we're back on the road against an opponent that's not particularly tough in general, but in this particular context, they will be, because they're going to be at home. We're on low
like I said, they've
morale.
won their last 3, and they haven't lost in 2019. So I definitely wouldn't say it's not a particularly tough game. I think it's a tough one. I think it's a tough one for us. Yeah, I think we we have to win it, but Yeah. How much motivation?
I mean, that's the main thing, is like morale, right? Like
Yeah.
if there were a new coach to impress, because they were trying to establish a role for themselves going forward, that could be an incentive for guys to play harder. But that's circling back on the main issue, isn't it? But so tune in for that match Saturday. We'll be back, of course, with our post game. But so Kaan, So with that said, knowing now what's ahead, what do you want our listeners to be thinking about going forward? How do you want to wrap this thing up?
Guys, don't spend too much time feeling bad about this result. It's, move on. I have to say that ever since I became a father, it's been a lot easier for me to process these types of results. So you know what? Go make some babies.
Exactly. And just remember that even before this match started, we were pretty much out of the title race. We've been talking about that for some time. So it's not like, in the context of things, if we were in the heart of the title race and we dropped these vital 2 points that took us out of it or made it that much harder for us to win, for sure, like it'd be, we'd have the violins at the ready. But it's not. In the big picture, you hate to start talking like this, but it wasn't even that big of a game. Fener is a relegation-bound team at the moment, although they're in better stead now. But it was just a match between two Turkish teams, not really competing for the title.
Right before the match, at halftime, Fenerbahçe were in really deep trouble, and they were because I think they're only ahead on goal differential on Bursaspor. But with that point, of course, they move out of that relegation zone now with 1 point ahead of Bursa. But yeah, I mean, there's not really much left to be said. It's a disappointing evening, of course, for all Beşiktaş fans. But you know what? I'm going to conclude with this. At least it was a fair game. At least we didn't get screwed like we did last season in the cup, like we have the season prior in the cup.
We earned this tragedy.
And even last season, exactly a year ago when we beat them 3-1, they had that ridiculous goal that wasn't ruled offside, that was always offside. At least that kind of stuff didn't happen. We have only ourselves to blame. We were 3-0 up at halftime and you give it away.
And if this is the match that turns the season and destroys our morale, how fitting that would be Fener again. I said this pre-match, but last season it was Fener with them splitting our coach's head open in public. Now it's ourselves collapsing in public. It seems to always be Fener that triggers a existential crisis within the club. But whatever, man. So be it. Here we are. Take us out, Kaan. Tell them how to follow us. Also, one final note. Thank you to Emre Hasturk for the stadium sounds. Those are fantastic. Keep them coming, sir. And shout outs to you, Emre.
I just want to end with this. Congratulations to Fenerbahçe and their fans. I think they've been on, they've gone through a lot this season. They've gone through very dark days. They're still in that relegation zone still, but their fans turn up to every home game. Their fans turned up in groves again for this away game as well. You know what? In spirit of sportsmanship, I would very much like to congratulate them on this win. It's a win for them. I don't know if we mentioned it on and off on air, but sometimes you have a draw that feels like a win, and other draws feels like a defeat. And I think that's very true in this case for Beşiktaş. This is a big blow. A big
Let's
loss.
take that L.
And for Fenerbahçe, this is a huge win for them mentally going forward in their relegation battle. This is going to be something where they're going to be able to pull some strength from. As always, guys, you can find all Twitter, social media stuff in the show notes. Sinan's handle, my handle, Beşiktaş International, the podcast. Please drop us a 5-star review on iTunes. And once again, go check out Football a la Turca, new podcast, which also was taped today. So it will probably be out tomorrow afternoon, which will review the entire Turkish Super League. And that's everything I have left to say. So take us out, Sinan.
Go Beşiktaş! Still! We haven't given up.
Go Sinan Güneş.
Yeah. Go Sinan Güneş. To your country home, wherever that may be, away from the club's facilities. And guys, enjoy your week. Ooh, tough Monday. I think Mondays weren't bad enough.
Go eat some listen.
Garfield. Oh man, alright. Well, I'm gonna make dinner for my little kid, man. Oh, that's so right.
April, I think.
That's excellent.
Beşiktash International hopes you enjoyed this program.